Hey, welcome back. I'm Ferrikster. Here to bring you some more Pokemon Go GBL battles. These battles are played in Element Cup, and these battles are not mine. They were sent in by a friend of mine, Azure Foe, because he has something that I don't have, and that is a Salandit. So, really quickly, I briefly talked about this in my last video. Salandit is an extremely powerful Pokemon in the Element Cup meta, but acquiring it is difficult. So the only way to get a Salandit would be to get it traded to your account from an account that is level 17 or below, or rather that got the egg that hatched the Salandit when it was still below level 17. So what that would mean is an account would have to be like, you start getting rockets around level 8, so you can start battling rockets at level 8, and between the levels of 8 and 17 you have to just battle rockets, beat them, then beat the rocket leaders to get red eggs, and then hatch those red eggs. So basically you'd have to do a lot of battling leaders and walking around and hatching Salandit, which is a pretty rare spawn, and then getting that traded to your main. So that could be done if you have like a friend who played for maybe a half an hour a long time ago, and then you can bring them back into the game and see if you can help them learn to beat rockets really well and hatch eggs, and hopefully they can beat, the team leaders, because they scale with your levels, so it's not the same leaders that you face. They'll be easier to beat. So it's definitely doable, but I would say that 99.99% of the Salandits that you might be encountering when you're playing Element Cup were not acquired in that fashion. They were instead acquired by a person who has a main account, and they just start a new, fresh email and just build a brand new account from scratch, and just play it themselves and, work their way up to level 8, start battling rockets, getting their Salandit hatched, and then trading it over to their main. And that is technically against the terms of service, in that having an alternate account is against the terms of service, but I openly have an alternate account that I, use to play more than my max 25 sets. Like sometimes I'm, live on Twitch and I play through all of my sets, and I decide to play some more sets and I play that on my alt. And a lot of other creators have had alternate accounts that they've played live for a very long time, Being limited to 25 battles a day makes it a little difficult to make content sometimes if you're someone who plays more heavily or who makes content every day. I don't usually make more than one video a week, so for me it's not too big of a deal. But you can definitely see why there'd be situations where you would need a second account for something like that. People also use them to help them in raids when they live in like remote areas, and I mean there's a lot of uses, and people have been doing it forever, and people have been breaking the terms of service in this game from day one. I don't think that getting a Salandit is as egregious as, say, defitting all of your XL candy as soon as XLs dropped back when XLs dropped. I feel like that was much, much worse. So, yeah, I'm not trying to pass judgment on anyone who has a Salandit. I am not, particularly upset when someone else is using one, even against me with my other team. It's just, it's a Pokemon that is very, very meta in this cup, but anyone who really wanted to put in the work to get it could acquire one. And the only reason I don't have one isn't because I'm standing on some kind of moral high ground. It's just because it's just too much work, and I'm just unwilling to put in the time to do that. But yeah, so that was my really short, spiel, my position on having Salandit. So since we've gotten past that, let's get into these games. Azure Foe sent me in 3 full sets that he played with this team. This is his legend run, actually. So he is leading with Salandit. Salandit is basically like the Nidoqueen of Little Cup currently. It has Poison Jab as its fast move, and it has 3 options for charge moves. Having Poison Fang, kind of mandatory. Poison Jab, Poison Fang, very strong combination, and there's almost nothing in the Little Cup meta that resists poison. Notable exceptions would be Mud Boys like Wooper and Barboach. And I guess opposing Salandits, really. There's not too many other things unless you have something that's like a rock water, but that's generally not really that good in the meta either. Barboach Wooper are like the main hard counters to Salandit, just because they're kind of the only things that really, do a good job resisting poison. And for charge moves, I would say the most common option is Flamethrower, and a secondary choice that I think makes a lot of sense if you're running Salandit in the lead would be Dragon Pulse, specifically for situations like what we just saw, where he was caught by a Wooper in the lead, and since Wooper normally resists both of Salandit's moves, throws the Dragon Pulse, was able to catch him off guard, and that helped put him in a much better position in this game. I mean, it's a rough situation because you've got a Chikorita who's going to get farmed down here, but this Vulpix isn't going to be able to take him out, so probably just going to shield this. And one of the nice things about Salandit is that it wins CMP against nearly everything. So he just needs to, throw a move or just fast move something down. So here we go. Wooper in the lead. This is like one of the hardest hard counters in the game to Salandit in this meta. So your foe's just going to swap out right away into his Ducklet, and the opponent is going to throw a move with his Wooper, which I think is kind of strange, to chip and then swap out to his own Duck. So this Ducklet is still in a position where it would survive an Aerial Ace or obviously a Bubble Beam, so it was definitely safe to let that go. Here he's going to bait Aerial Ace after he's maxed at about 100 energy, and if he gets the shield here, he's going to be able to force the last shield out with a Brave Bird, so good on him to make this, and this Brave Bird is going to connect, so as your foe has kind of, gotten swap in this game, in the back, he has Chikorita. So basically the way this team looks like it's going to function is Salandit in the lead is going to be able to force its way through a lot of things. Like, it wins the one shield scenario against a lot of Pokemon just because it outpaces and it just out DPSs so many things. So it looks like you either force your way into switch advantage or you just end up safe swapping. If you get hard counter in the lead, you can safe swap Ducklet and just try to force your way into switch advantage or shield advantage and hope that Salandit and Chikorita can close it out. Chikorita, obviously, a super hard counter to the hard counters for Salandit, like Wooper and Barboach. Just Grass without that poison subtyping that my Bulbasaur has means you take neutral damage from the opposing Mud Bombs, which hit a little bit harder than the Body Slams would. And Chikorita is also just a little bit thicker, so has a lot of survivability. So I know he lagged out of one of these games in this set, so if you didn't count that, it would be like a 3-1, but we'll just call it the 3-2 that it is, and on into this next set. So, Salandit into Bulbasaur. This is a strongly positive lead for Salandit, as a lot of leads are. Salandit being Poison Fire, double resists Grass. The opponent swaps out into Seal, and what Azure Foe is going to do, and I see him do this a lot in these sets, is that he throws the Poison Fang, debuffs the Seal, and then swaps out into Chikorita as the counter swap. So here, once Chikorita's been swapped in at this point, doesn't actually need to throw anything, is actually able to just tank one Icy Wind and farm Seal the whole way down, ending really low and with a lot of energy. That's helpful because that means that whatever's going to come back out isn't going to be able to get too much farm off of Chikorita, and Chikorita is going to be able to unload this energy. So throws one Body Slam, going to spam out the next one. Those both are going to hit Bulbasaur reasonably hard. Bulbasaur is going to end up farming the whole way down. But he's only going to end up with like 4 or 5... I think this is even too early to be not a Seed Bomb. So Seed Bomb going to get shielded anyway, because even though Seed Bomb is double resisted, it would still hit Salandit for like 25% or so HP, and that would actually mean that Salandit would have fainted here before reaching this second move. So definitely, wise to, I guess, shield Salandit in this situation, just because, really needed to get out that second move to just force the last shield out of Ducklet. Now your foe is kind of safe to shield one of these. Turns out to be a Bubble Beam. Actually, yikes, is he safe? Because, if this is a Bubble Beam into Brave Bird, then, barely survive that. Able to get off this Aerial Ace, which is definitely going to KO now that Ducklet is debuffed, although I think it would have taken him out anyway, and one Wing Attack is enough to take out the Bulbasaur, so actually that worked out just fine, and that is a GG. All right, Salandit into Chikorita. This is an even better lead than the last lead, although Chikorita can outpace Salandit to the second Body Slam. Because Chikorita's Vine Whips into Body Slams is 5, then 4, whereas Salandit is just 5, 5, 5. Poison Jabs into Poison Fang. So opponent decides to safe swap their Seal, and Azure Foe does the same thing he did in the last time, which is just throw one Poison Fang and then swap out into Chikorita for a full farm down. So Chikorita now pretty low, but going to be able to unload this energy. Opposing Chikorita comes back out, and that is just fine. Azure Foe is just going to spam out both of these Body Slams. Chikorita is single debuffed at this point, so they're not going to do as much as they would have otherwise. But 2 Body Slams from one Chikorita to another isn't enough to KO anyway. Opposing Chikorita farms the whole way down. And I'm assuming Salandit's going to come back out, but will end up having to shield something. No, the opponent immediately swaps out into Ducklet, and that means this Ducklet has a tiny energy lead. So this is kind of a dangerous position for Azure Foe. He decides to no-shield this Brave Bird, which actually I guess is the right choice because, you know, if they're going to bait Bubble Beam, then it's kind of a waste of energy. Whereas if they throw the Brave Bird, that drops their defense. And Salandit puts on so much fast move pressure that now that Ducklet's defense has been dropped, it's able to just fast move the whole way down. No need for Ducklet to even throw anything. And Salandit's just going to farm down Chikorita also. No need to throw anything at any time. Just straight farms them down after that. That is a GG. Really well played. So, Salandit into Chinchou. You would think that a water type like Chinchou would be good against Salandit, but Salandit actually just kind of outpaces and out DPSs. And sure, Chinchou is going to debuff Salandit's attack, but Salandit is debuffing Chinchou's defense. So they're actually just going to continue to do the same amount of damage to each other. Salandit is going to win CMP. So if they decide to shield this, Azure Foe can just, you know, mirror shield and farm down. So I don't know that it's really wise for the opponent to shield, but they decide to, and Azure Foe is of course just going to shield this, and maybe the opponent swaps in for a snipe at some point. Yes, they sent in their Ducklet. Azure Foe is actually going to store a move and then swap out into his own Duck. Since this Ducklet hasn't taken all of that wing attack damage, a Brave Bird isn't actually enough to KO. And after he throws that, Azure Foe is actually just going to be able to spam out this this Aerial Ace, and that takes Ducklet down. So he's got a Salandit with a move. Like, the opponent can bring in his Chinchou if he wants to farm down, but he's only going to get 2 Sparks. And your foe is just going to send in Chikorita, get a full farm down. Now we've got Chikorita with some energy up against a Vulpix that comes out, and this Vulpix is running Ember, not Quick Attack like I usually run it. But after he lands that, yeah, really just needs to bring Salandit in. Gonna spam out one of these Poison Fangs, and I think this plus another Poison Jab should be enough to take Vulpix down in a simultaneous KO. That was actually really close to... yeah, if that Vulpix had survived that last Poison Fang, would have actually been able to take out Chikorita, so that was a really, really close game, but well played. Alright, Salandit Mirror. So... Azure Foe opts to swap out and catch the first Poison Fang on Ducklet, also manages to sneak in a Wing Attack, so that helps sort of. But Salandit's going to be able to, like, even if Azure Foe was running Bubble Beam, he would still just be CMPing with the Salandit here. Instead ends up shielding, and the opponent brings in Chikorita, so, I mean... An Aerial Ace definitely won't take out Chikorita from here. If he's able to land a Brave Bird, it would. Not quite able to throw a second move. Got a shield, so it didn't end up mattering, but would have been safer in that situation to throw the Brave Bird in case they no-shielded. Gonna bring Salandit out, and this Chikorita has energy, like has a Body Slam loaded, so Azure Foe's just going to spam out this Poison Fang, gets a shield out of him, and the Chikorita actually wasn't even spamming out their move, so now Azure Foe's just going to shield, can build up a little bit of energy. Unfortunately, this Chikorita did have enough energy that it's able to outpace to the second Body Slam. That's going to land, and that is enough to take out Salandit. The opponent brings in a Seal, and Azure Foe is going to spam out this Energy Ball right away. I think he could have thrown 2 more Vine Whips to load up on a little bit more energy. Not sure if that's going to end up mattering or not. I guess we're going to find out. But the opponent can no longer, like, switch in to catch something. So the opponent brings in their Chikorita, and they're going to throw their Body Slam, and that kind of gives Azure Foe the OK to farm up a little bit extra energy. He builds up as much as he can. Not sure who's going to win CMP, so definitely safe to just throw this here before Chikorita reaches another Body Slam. This Body Slam, obviously enough to KO, and we already saw in the last game how much a Body Slam from a Chikorita does to Salandit. It's enough. At least like 60%. Salandit is just very, very squishy, takes tons and tons of damage from any charge move at all. Alright, Salandit into Wooper. This is the hardest of hard counters in this meta, so Azure Foe is going to insta-swap out to Ducklet. So, Wooper does so little to Chikorita that really, as long as Azure Foe can force switch advantage, he should be able to win this, or even if he puts himself into a position where he sets Chikorita up well enough that Chikorita is going to be able to sweep away Wooper plus something that's in the back. Problem is that Wooper is so weak against grass that they should have 2 grass counters in the back, which may very well end up being double fire. So Azure Foe is just going to spam out this Brave Bird because that'll give Vulpix less farm. You know, we'll get taken down in fewer quick attacks. And now going to send out Salandit. So this is kind of a dangerous position, but luckily the Wooper is already pretty low, so yeah, Azure Foe going to double shield here and probably try to just forcibly farm the Vulpix the whole way down. Definitely going to be able to do it, actually, without a problem. So has a move banked, and he is tapping by the Dragon Pulse, so it looks like he's intending to just go straight Dragon Pulse. The opposing Wooper is actually already pretty low, so I'm not sure if this is even necessary. Probably could have landed one Poison Fang and then maybe sniped with Chikorita. Like, the Wooper is really low, but manages to catch a Body Slam. There's a Tepig in the back. Unfortunately, this Tepig is going to get a full farm on this Chikorita, just going to end up embering it the whole way down. Gonna end with a move, and since Salandit doesn't have enough energy to throw something, yeah, just gonna get taken out with a Body Slam. But really close game. That was a really, really difficult lead to deal with. Yeah, Wooper is just very, very strong against Salandit. That's why so many people are starting to run it, because they're frustrated with how strong Salandit is. So Azure Foe still manages to get a pretty solid 4-1. He gets a Palkia, and that is probably fantastic. I don't know if he's a big-time raider or not, so I don't know if he's done with it. I know the IVs of this Palkia are abysmal because the hundo is 2280. I have learned that after a full week of doing at least a couple of raids. Well done, Ferrikster. And Azure Foe hits Legend, goes up to 30-35, gets his B pose, and we are going into the next set to try to claim this Pika Libre. Alright, Salandit into Ducklet. This is like kind of a neutral lead. It's sort of IV dependent. So, as we saw in my last video where I was playing as the Ducklet, I'm able to survive the first Poison Fang and I can just shield the second one. This Ducklet looks like it probably wouldn't make it to the second move even if they had Bubble Beam, but they switch out and bank their energy, so I'm not sure. They might be running Aerial Ace, Brave Bird. Still, opponent swaps out into Seal, and Azure Foe is going to do his standard response to a Seal safe swap, which is to debuff once with a with a Poison Fang, and then swap out into Chikorita, get a full farm, and not shield anything. So now I've got Chikorita with energy, and since the Ducklet has taken damage, yeah, they might end up having to shield one of these Body Slams. Like, I don't think Body Slam would KO at this point, especially because Chikorita's already been debuffed. I'm actually really confident that it wouldn't be enough. Yeah, Ducklet's able to survive, but the Ducklet is very low. Has a decent chunk of energy. Not sure what Azure Foe is going to do. Maybe send out Ducklet, hoping probably for an insta-throw on a Bubble Beam. Didn't quite happen. Still, he is going to no-shield this, managing to call the Bubble Beam bait. And there is a quick attack Vulpix in the back. Switches into Salandit right away, gonna spam out this Poison Fang. If this were a CMP, that would be ideal, but I don't think the opponent is throwing. I think they're intent on farming the whole way down. They no shield, and there is a Ducklet in the back with nothing left. But, I mean, Azure Foe had 2 shields and an awful lot of health on Ducklet, so I guess that was pretty much... That was the way it was going to go. All right, Salandit into Cottony. So Salandit is like the hardest possible counter to Cottony, double resisting both Charm and Grass, and doing double super effective damage with Poison. So opponent's going to send out their Seal Safe Swap, and as your foe is still going to do the same thing that he does as a response to that, debuff and then swap into Chikorita and farm down. This actually makes the most sense in this situation. Like, there might be situations where someone like me would be like, maybe you shield Chikorita and with Chikorita with energy. Here you definitely don't want to do that because you don't want Cottony to end up farming down, and he doesn't even throw any of his energy. That way Salandit will get more farm off. So now the opponent is down to one Pokemon, which means they are definitely going to get debuffed here, and damaged. And if you can get a shield, that's fantastic. That's how much an undebuffed Poison Fang does. Second Poison Fang going to go out against this Wooper, and Ducklet in the back. There's absolutely nothing the opponent can do. That was just straight hard counter. Just, as long as you make sure that you don't lose swap. But yeah, it definitely makes sense leaving your Chikorita with not that much health. So it looks like we have the same thing coming up again. So yeah, just gonna spam out Poison Fang. There's really almost no play for the opponent in this situation. Cottony lead with a Seal Safe Swap just after you get full farm down by Chikorita, and Chikorita doesn't even have a lot of health to farm down with. There's like no play for the opponent in this situation, really. Yeah, just gonna full farm. Doesn't even need to throw anything. If something that's not Cottony shows up, then I guess you do spam out your moves. But yeah, if Cottony comes in, you just let them charm you down, bring in Salandit, farm. Like, the opponent tried to wait out their switch clock as much as they could, but it's just, like, it's nowhere near being up yet. Or it's just about up at this point. But yeah, it just wasn't enough time. Managed to take down that whole line. All right, so against Seal in the lead as opposed to in the swap. So Azure is just going to spam out the Poison Fang as soon as you can. You want to get that debuff off quickly because Poison Jab is such a fast damage move. Going to definitely shield this. You'd expect it to be an Aqua Tail, but even if they throw the Icy Wind, they're actually still not, like, even after debuffing like that, they're not able to reach a second move. So it really doesn't even help them much to debuff you like that. Opponent's going to bring out an Execute, and Confusion does so much damage to Salandit. Ashfo is going to swap out right away to Chikorita. The opponent has a Cottony in the back, and that is totally fine. This Cottony is getting a lot more farm on this Chikorita than we are used to it getting. But, I mean, Salandit's going to come in, farm this down. Might end up having to shield here. Like, this is only a Seed Bomb, and it's double resisted, so I guess he doesn't need to. Yeah, actually survives that just fine. And looks like he was thinking about throwing a Poison Fang, but opted to throw the Dragon Pulse instead. I guess thinking maybe he wouldn't get to 2 moves, but actually did survive one of those confusions, so was actually going to be able to throw a... or actually, no, didn't survive a confusion, just the opponent... Sometimes when the opponent's going to bring in a new Pokemon, or when you are going to bring in a new Pokemon, sometimes it'll take a turn, so the opponent will, be able to instant throw their move and you won't get a sneak in. That happened this time, but, oh man, that was actually really close. If the opponent had boosted on the Ancient Power, they would have won that. I think maybe it would have been more sensible to throw the Poison Fang regardless. Alright, Salandit into Ducklet. So this is going to be IV dependent. The Ducklet has to have very good IVs to be able to win in the ones. And it doesn't matter if they shield the first move or the second. This one definitely doesn't have good enough IVs to win the ones. So Salandit just really needs to shield here, and you'll be able to farm them the rest of the way down. They won't be able to get to a second move. The opponent recognizes that, switches into their Quick Attack Vulpix, and Salandit is going to throw a Poison Fang, and probably depends on whether they shield or not, whether you switch or not. They opt to switch, so just going to bring in Ducklet right away. Definitely don't need to shield anything here. Body Slam hurts, but, I mean, they're going to end up throwing their second one. Going to have to shield one of them, but it didn't have to be either particular one, because, yeah, Vulpix doesn't know a bigger nuke move, so there's, it doesn't matter which one you shield. It's not like they're going to surprise you and have Hyper Beam or something. So, there is a Bulbasaur in the back, and this is actually kind of a useful place to have Aerial Ace, I guess, because you'll be able to throw the Aerial Ace. They shield, and could definitely have thrown the Brave Bird here. Not too sure why he's going for the Aerial Ace. It's enough anyway. Oh, so he can get a little bit of farm on Salandit. But he was just going to fast move down the other Pokemon anyway. Okay. All right, well, that's a GG. I don't think it made a difference how he ended up playing that out. But, like, throwing the Brave Bird would have been fine since you're just going to fast move everything to death anyway. Regardless, that is a very clean 5 out of 5. He gets his Pikachu Libre, 512 CP. That is okay IVs. And goes up to 3097 for a really strong, healthy climb. Yeah, all in all, very solid sets. Thank you so much, As Your Foe, for sending in those games. Don't forget to do the things you know you're supposed to do at the ends of videos, by the way, everyone. You know what you're supposed to do at the ends of videos. All creators ask for the same kinds of stuff. Please do all things. Helps me out so much. I will see you guys on the next one. Why is it so hot in here? Why is this not stopping recording?